So normally I start with, we will chant Om 3 times, close your eyes. It's a way of starting the session with no expectations, right? If you expect something from me, you will not be very happy about it. So best thing to do Omkara and be happy with the self within. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. So yesterday you have actually heard whatever was to be heard, right? So we had some very powerful speakers and they told you exactly from A to Z about what Bhagwan has actually dealt with in his teachings. So I thought I will sort of, bring out a different dimension. Because Bhagwan, if you really look at Bhagwan, he is always asking us to inquire. That means very important is to do manana. See, Shravana is everybody listens. All of us are listening to each other. But how many of us do manana and how many of us really do nididhyasana? Because that's very important. So I'm going to take on some questions and see how this thing evolves. So, what do we believe in? See, if we are in here today, we are in a satsang, we are here for what? We are here to understand the truth. Sat means truth, Sangha means a group of people who are trying to understand the truth. We have left our beautiful Sunday afternoon and evening just to what? To understand the truth, who we really are. So let's see how this evolves. So, important thing is Bhagavan is asking this question. So, there must be a problem. That's why we are sitting here. Otherwise, we won't be here. The question is, what is obvious, self-evident and more immediate to us, the self, we say we are not able to see. We are not able to see something which is obvious. See, when we say we want to do self-inquiry, we want to do this and we want to do that, why do you want to do it at all? Because of this, we are not able to see it. This is a very important question that we need to do manana on. That why are we doing self-inquiry? If you ask somebody on the road and say, hey, do you know who am I? He'll think you're gone crazy. Why? Because you won't walk on the road and ask who am I. Bhagavan says that we are not able to see who we really obviously are. So let's try and get a little deeper. So this is what sees. If you see, we see with these eyes only. What do we see with these eyes? We see anama and rupa. We see I see so many of us sitting here. You see me standing on this podium and talking. So we see that. You are yourself the eye that sees. If you go a little deeper, if I pull out my eyes and keep it on the table, if I say I see because of the light, if I pull out my eyes and keep it on the table, will it be able to see? No, it won't be able to see. There is an eye of the eye. There is something within. There is a light within because of which we are able to see. Bhagavan says, yet you say you don't know the eye that sees, but only know the things seen. We are always in the mode of trying to understand what do we see. So if we started this session a little late, what was happening in our system? Just imagine it. Just contemplate. We were sitting half an hour and waiting for this laptop to work. At that point, it was a great opportunity to do self-inquiry. How many of us were sitting here and doing self-inquiry? Probably very few of us. Why? We are saying, oh, it's not working. It's not working. I see it's not working. That's what was going on in our minds. So what is happening? All the time we are seeing. And what's the nature of the mind? The main nature of the mind is to see negative. It does not see positive. Let me tell you that very clearly. With the 60 odd years I have lived, mind only sees negative. It does not see the positive. So important thing is, that was an opportunity. The 30 minutes that we had when nothing was happening on the stage, it was an opportunity to do self-inquiry. But we were chatting here and there. So Bhagavan says, but only know the things that are seen. Now this is the thing. Bhagavan says, what sees? Is there anything that is seen whose nature is other than that of the eye that sees? So you see, because why? Because the nature of the eye. That eye is in reality the self, the infinite eye. Because everything is happening. The world is evolving. In the morning when you wake up, everything is happening because of you, the consciousness. Everything is happening in your eye, in your mind. So what does it latch on to? What happens in the morning? When you wake up, there is a sense of silence. But we're there for a fraction of a second. Then what happens? The spiritual heart cranks up the brain, which cranks up the mind, which cranks up the five senses, which cranks up the body, and then the world, it cranks up the whole world, and the world rises. And then we see, oh, this is the world. And we think that the world is real for us. That's true for all of us. But Bhagavan says that between two breaths, between two thoughts, between the waking and dream, between the sleep and waking, between the waking and sleep, there is a silence. How many of us are able to see and experience that silence? Very few of us. But what happens? If one is a form, then it follows that the world and the Supreme will also have a form. I see. Why do I go to Venkateshwara? Why do I go to Sai Baba's temple? Why do I go here, Chidambaram? Why do I go here and there? Because I see myself as this form. When I see myself as a form, I go and see myself, I see God also as a form. But you go to Tirupati, I give this particular example. You land up in front of Tirupati after waiting for 3-4 hours. That lady catches your hand. You've seen Tirupati, and in a second you close your eyes. That lady catches your hand. Jargandi, out, you're out. Oh, yes, sir, my God. I was supposed to see Venkateshwara, the Bhudevi and Lakshmi were there on the chest. I didn't see this time. I only saw the feet, but let me come back. Again, same thing happens. What happens? You come to the queue and why do you close your eyes? You spent 5 hours in the queue just to have Lord Venkateshwara's darshan. But what do? Close your eyes. Then what is the form? See, this is a very important thing that we don't seem to understand. The important thing is that we are always going from Saguna to Nirguna. We are seeing God, but we are telling, oh, God is within me. We're going within. But it's happening in such a fraction of a second that you don't realize that. So he says, if one is not a form, who is there to see their forms and how? If you realize that you are not the form, then what is God? If you are formless, then God also is formless. Another thing to ponder upon is changelessness. Everything we see is changing, always changing. There must be something unchanging as the basis and source of all this. Now look at this. You see this PowerPoint. What do you see? You see some changing. What is changing? The slides are changing. Continuously the slides are changing. What is not changing? The screen is not changing. What do you see on this right now? If you just look at it, examine it. You see what? You see English language. Do you see English language? Do you see the alphabets? Do you see the alphabets written in black? And the black alphabets are on the white screen? Do you see all that? You don't see that. You just take it for granted and saying, I'm just seeing this thing called changelessness. But you don't see all that is happening, that layers and layers and layers that are behind that. And the screen, which is changeless. So Bhagavan says, like this little kurta I'm wearing. Do you see the cotton in this? You don't see the cotton in this. You see, it's a black in color and it's probably got a brand, it costs so and so amount of money. But who sees the cotton? Nobody sees the cotton. So there is a changeless. So Bhagavan is saying that's important. There must be something changing as the basis and source of all this. So important for all of us to be able to see the changeless. And that, if you see the changeless, what happens, then you're really seeing things. Now, another perspective, is solitude. Because a lot of sadhus, what they do, they go into the Himalayas or go to places where they want solitude. Why do they want solitude? They want to move away from the human beings. Too much interruptions here, there are too many issues. I want to go into solitude. But what is solitude? See, all the great ones say, when you actually go to the Himalayas, you will go with your mind. Yes or no? You go with your mind. Wherever you go in the world, you will go with your mind. You can't say, hey mind, I am going on a holiday now, you stay back at home. And I am going to go on a holiday, I'll come back. It's like one of my friends, what he used to do is, whenever he used to go to a seminar or a spiritual workshop, what he used to do, he used to go next to the tree and do something like this. And go into the hall and attend the seminar and come back. Coming out, he would come and put that thing back on. So somebody asked him, hey, what is this you're doing? You're putting this on there and coming for the workshop. After the workshop, he said, you're going. He said, I'm putting my ego mind all outside. I'm leaving it all outside. So that when I'm actually here, I'm actually open. I'm actually totally open to what the session is all about. So, there is what Bhagavan is saying to say. This solitude. What does solitude mean? Bhagavan is beautiful. All these words are Bhagavan's words. I have not put anything which is not Bhagavan's words in here. As the self is all pervasive, it has no particular place for solitude. The state of being free from mental concepts is called dwelling in solitude. We will say, put your hand in school, put your hand on your finger, sit quietly. It used to be a big punishment. When you stand you're told to stand on your chair or bench or stand outside, it is a big punishment. Why? Solitude, being alone. How many of us can be alone? Isn't it frightening? You go to Chennai and go to the beach, just sit quietly one evening or morning when there's nobody there, and it will absolutely frighten you. Why? Because you're not used to being with yourself. You have continuous external leanings. I need somebody here, I need somebody there to be continuously with me. I cannot bear this quietness. I cannot deal with this quietness myself. So Bhagavan says that is very, very important. That's why they say do have a quiet place in your house where you can do self-inquiry. Says dwelling in solitude. Free from mental concepts. Means what? There's no nama, there's no rupa, there's no vishaya vasanas. Nothing is there. You're all the time in this solitude. Solitude is very, very, very important in our sadhana because it takes you within and doesn't take you out into the world of names and forms, which is just a projection. It's not true. So what is Maya? So this is the thing that everybody wants to know. What is this Maya? Why is this whole thing, everybody talks about Maya? Do not trouble yourself to conquer Maya. So imagine you have bad thoughts. You have bad thoughts. All of us have bad thoughts. Imagine you have bad thoughts and somebody says, okay, now what you're going to do is, you are going to have good thoughts from this moment. How do you get good thoughts? Oh, I'll say, I will stop the bad thoughts. If I stop the bad thoughts, what will happen? I will get good thoughts. But does that happen? Can you stop the bad thoughts? You can't stop the bad thoughts. What do you need to do? You need to have good thoughts. If you have good thoughts, the bad thoughts will automatically quieten. So that's the way the Maya is. So if you have thoughts of lust, greed, anger, hatred, jealousy, this is common to everybody. All of us have those thoughts. How do you overcome that? By love, by compassion, by giving. How do you see God in everybody? He said, Ishavasya midam sarvam. You can all practice. In theory you can say, everything is God. This table is also God, this mobile is also God, this mouse is also God, everything is God. How do you see God? You can't see God so easily unless you are able to, this mind, you have to make it your best friend. When it makes it a best friend, then what does it start seeing? It starts seeing the commonness. Today what do we see? We see vyathyasa, we see differences. Oh, he is so-and-so, she is so-and-so, he is from there, I am from there, I think he is a realized soul, I am not a realized soul. All these stories are continuously happening in our minds. So what is happening? We are not in peace at all. So Bhagavan says, this is basically Maya, this is just a covering, it's just a veiling. Actually, if you look at this body, what do you see? There is one bag of flesh and bones that you're seeing right now in front of you. And behind that is the Atman, is the changeless, which is the Atman, God, consciousness, you may call it anything. But in between these two is this little fellow, I am there here, don't forget me. This middle fellow comes and wakes up and says, okay, so don't do this, do that. And this fellow is actually that knot. Chit Jada Granthi, what we say, this is the little knot which ties up this body and this Atman. And this is so strong because what's the nature of the mind? The nature of the mind is to go outside. That's the first nature of the mind. What's the second nature of the mind? Is to jump from one object to another object to another object. That's the nature of the mind. So now, if you understand the nature of the mind, it's half the job done. Like if you got a dog, if you got a Labrador dog, and the trainer will say, I know the nature of this dog, then what does it do? It knows how to train the dog. But we know the problem, but we don't know how to deal with it. So Bhagavan says importantly that more and more we understand this, do not trouble yourself to conquer Maya, be in your real state and Maya will go away of its own accord. What does it mean Maya will go away? Will the world suddenly go away? Will I have the deep sleep experience the next second? No, the world will be there. Like you're sitting in a bus stand, if you're not expecting anybody, what happens? You will not look at anybody who's coming and going. They're coming and going, coming and going. But imagine your wife, you're expecting your wife. And every lady is coming, oh, is that my wife? Is that my wife? Is that my wife? You'll keep on seeing everybody who comes. So, then what happens is, it is actually, that's the way Maya is. If you, see, it's always you who feed it. The world doesn't come and says, Venkatesh, come. Come and, come here. No, we want to go there. We are giving it energy. That's why it starts growing and growing and growing. Look at the way we all are. Every morning we read the newspaper, right? We watch the TV, breaking news. What is it breaking? It's only breaking us. It's not breaking any other thing. We say breaking news, that every minute that same news will become 10 times. That the TV anchor will say breaking news. this is happening in Tamil Nadu, this is happening in Karnataka. Nothing is happening. Bhagavan is saying that's all Maya, that's all not true. You are giving it to reality. It's a very, very fundamentally very important thing that if you don't read the newspaper, in our house, the TV is never on. We get the newspaper fresh and it goes to the kabaddi fellow fresh. It's not even opened. That newspaper is not even opened. Now, if you don't read newspaper, what happens? Nothing happens. Today I read the newspaper. I don't know today why I opened the newspaper. I read that Rahul Bajaj passed away. And today I passed away, or last, I don't know how many years earlier he passed away. He passed away. I read that. So, the point is, it is junk information for me. It's not useful for my sadhana. It is more junk information that will not help me to go towards the self. So Bhagavan is saying, anytime you have free, you must inquire who you really are. If you keep inquiring, then what happens? This mind, this Maya which is bothering you, suddenly becomes quiet. And that happens to us every night. Why did Bhagavan not sleep? Let's think about it for a second. Bhagavan never slept. Why did he not sleep? Because his mind was not loitering. In Tamil they use that word suttarivu, right? It is loitering around like a dog. Your mind loiters here, there. If I tell you to go to Taj Mahal now, this very second come back from Taj Mahal, it goes there to Taj Mahal and comes back here. In 1 second it goes there and comes back. That's the nature of the mind. So Bhagavan says, if you keep on training the mind to keep going outwards, it will keep going outwards. So, if you attempt to conquer it, it will lead you to many more difficulties. See, we think we will conquer the mind. I will do something. The whole Bhagavad Gita was written. Why? Why was the Bhagavad Gita written? Because Arjuna had a mind which was jumping here and there and everywhere. So all those verses were written just because of the mind. So mind is not an ordinary object. It is something that you can, if you make it a good friend of yours, it helps you because it is the same mind which does self-inquiry and which is the same mind which actually takes you to the self, takes you within. So Bhagavan says importantly, if you attempt to conquer it, it will lead you to many other difficulties. Maya is completely destroyed by this intense activity which is called silence. Now, how do you do silence? Silence is very, 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 very difficult, but very, very, Bhagavan says, Ati Sulabham. It is very, very simple. It is like seeing a nellikai on your hand. It is that simple, to see. But we cannot see it. Why? Because if you go to a small village and you go to a doctor, what will that, if you are not well, you go to the doctor. Doctor says, there's nothing wrong with you. That patient will say, hey, this doctor does not know anything. Right? But if you go to another doctor, what they do, first they will give you injection. And the injection may have only water in it. It may not have any medicine in it. But you'll know that this doctor knows and what's my problem. So now what happens is, that's a psychological thing. That's a mind thing. Bhagavan says, everything is in your mind. The world is in your mind. Forget about whatever you perceive is in your mind. The trick about is to watch that who's not moving. That screen which is not moving. So finally, let's try and understand what the self is. The whole benefits that stands to be derived from a heart-directed inquiry is only the destruction of the I thought. This falseness, this covering, this veiling that has been happening all throughout our lives, when we have been fueling it and we are being saying this is true, all thing is to give up this knot has to be opened. And knot has to be opened quickly. The quicker you open it. And funnily enough, the other day in satsang also this came up in my mind. When somebody dies, when Venkatesh dies, what will they say? They will take the dead body and say, Ram Nam Satya Hai, they will say. Hare, Venkatesh Nam Satya Hai, they should say. No, No, where is Venkatesh? Why don't they say Venkatesh Naam Satya hai, Venkatesh Naam Satya hai? It's only Ram Naam Satya hai. There is only Satya is who? It's that Satchidananda Atman, which has gone, left that body. So, once you understand that your reality is not this body, mind, ego, intellect, and you are that Satchidananda, you are that consciousness which is making this everything happen right at this moment. This hand is moving left up and down. This is happening because of the self. It's not happening because of me. If I understand that with total clarity, then I realize everything that's happening is happening by his will. There is no will of yours. It's only God's will. If everything is God's will, then let it happen. So why should I be worried of what is happening, when it's happening, how it's happening? All these questions just vanish. And this is another thing. There is something that, we all say, oh, the Shanti Mantra, Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We say this, but do you actually feel full? Ask yourself this question. Do you feel full? When I say I'm Purana, do you feel full? No, I don't feel full. I feel empty. I feel like I'm being pulled from this side, being pulled from that side, everywhere. I don't feel full. So Bhagavan says that. There's nothing to realize because you are that. See, the funny thing is, if you're looking for something outside, then you will not find it. Because you are that itself that. If somebody asks me, are you a human being? Of course I am a human being. You inquire whether you're a human being or not. No. How can I inquire? I know I am a human being. It's like that. You are that Satchidananda Atman. You are that. But you say, I'm going to do self-inquiry. 15 minutes, I'm going to sit down and do self-inquiry. Who am I? It's like I'm going to find out whether I'm a human being or not. Exactly the same thing. It's a funny situation. But that's the reality that all of us are in. Bhagavan says, you are that. The whole Shastras, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Ramayana talks about one thing. What? You are that. That's all. Nothing else. Everything else is being said around that to come to that point, tat tvam asi. Nothing else. If somebody tells you something else, they're just fooling you. So, Bhagavan says, there is nothing to realize. It is Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, the eternal, pure, aware and liberated state. You have to undo whatever you have done. If you have done PhD, please undo whatever you have learnt. Then only if you empty yourself of all their ego and all that, that's when God will be available for you within. But if you are full with all this, with ego and all these points, that you think, I've done this, I've done that, then you have missed the boat. It is a natural eternal. There's nothing new to gain. There's absolutely nothing. You don't get horns. Somebody says, oh, Bhagwan, somebody asks, Bhagwan, when will I become a realized soul? When will I get mukti? Bhagavan says, if I am a not realized soul, I can't tell you when you will get realized. But if I am a realized soul, I only see myself. I don't see anybody else but me. See, Bhagavan, people will say, in the ashram, they will say, oh, Bhagavan, all these people, bhaktas have come for your darshan. Bhagavan will say, no, I am sitting here to have darshan of all of them. Why? It's simple. That each one of us is divine. Each one of us is that Satchitananda Atman. We have to understand that. Why? So because once we understand we are already that, then we don't have to go and realize anything. What is realization? If you see the world is realize what? That you have been a fool all through your life, and you have now suddenly you have given up all the falsity and you have realized, oh, I was always that, and what a fool I have been. That's what you realize at the end. So on the other hand, a man must lose all his ignorance. That's all. Once you lose all your ignorance means anything. That I know this, I know that, I have this knowledge, I have that knowledge, I can blabber like this, like blabber like that, like what this body is right now doing. If all these things, there's even a subtle ego that comes up, what happens? Finished. The game is over. You are stuck in this Maya. So finally, what do we need? What do we need? What the first slide was about the truth. We wanted the truth. What is the truth? This is the moment of truth. When is life happening for each one of us? It's happening now. It's not going to be after the workshop, suddenly I'm going to get jnana. It's not going to happen then. Because then also it's going to be now. So, when is life happening? It's happening now. Where do we live? We either live in the past or in the future. Past is like a ghost, it's gone. It's like going to the toilet and flushing. Everything's gone. Finished. It's like that. It's like a ghost. Future, who has seen the future? Nobody's seen the future. I may be gone the next second. So Bhagavan says, when is life? When is opportunity for you to do self-inquiry and understand who you really are? It is in the now. So we have to live in the now. So that's the moment of the truth. We are trying to find that moment of the truth when, I am going to be happy only when I go to Tiruvannamalai and do Girivalam. After I do Girivalam, I am going to be very happy because all my bad things which I have said all get washed away. Bhagavan, what did he tell his devotee? One of his devotees. He says, I want to wash away all my sins. He says, first give me all your good deeds. He gave all the good deeds. Then what did he say? He said, give me all your bad deeds. He said, no, I can't give you bad deeds. Give it to me. He gave it finally. Then he was free. When he is free, then what is there? Then you are that unmoving screen. Whatever may happen in the world, it doesn't matter. Whatever somebody says does not matter. It's like the lotus leaf which is sitting on dirty water. And nothing, it's even a droplet of water falls in it, nothing, it doesn't bother. You'll be like that, you will be a silent witness. You'll be that consciousness which will be just witnessing the whole drama of life. We say that life is a drama, but we are acting in that. We want to be an active participant in that drama. But more and more you do self-inquiry, you will realize this drama is false, it's veiling, it's just a covering, it's not real. It's just that has not been, you've not done enough of self-inquiry, your antarkarana shuddhi is not total to be able to experience the silence within. And more you do self-inquiry, you'll experience that silence within where sometimes it frightens you. The silence frightens you. My God, I can't think. Because why? We're used to thinking all the time. We must be thinking. Otherwise, I'll go land up with Alzheimer's if I don't think. That's the way the mind works. Bhagavan says, leave that to me. Whether you get Alzheimer's or anything else, leave that to me. You do self-inquiry and be with me. Once you are with Him, you are in peace. When you are in peace, then what happens? You are with everybody. That's that thread which goes through all beings. When you say, when He says, I don't have to go anywhere, I am there everywhere, what does He mean? He's that little thread which is going through all, which is the consciousness which is going amongst all of us. And that is what? That's the silence. So Bhagavan says, what was the state of Bhagavan? Total consciousness and total quietness within. He was totally aware of what's happening, but no movement of the minds at all. When there's no movement, you don't need rest at all. You are in that state of Jagrat Sushupti in the waking also. You are sleeping in the waking. The same experience you are having in the deep sleep, you'll be having in the waking also. then what happens? You are with God all the time. That's where He wants all of us to be. And if we are there, then we are with Him at His feet. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.